Black teen help disabled woman, has no idea who he's approaching. Even at 17, he understood that small acts of kindness could make a big difference. On a bright Saturday morning, he set out for a walk to clear his mind. The library had been crowded, and he had spent hours looking through books for his school project. Carrying a backpack filled with notebooks and papers, he enjoyed the calm of the streets, listening to birds chirping and the occasional sound of children playing in the distance. As he walked down Maple Street, Marcus noticed an elderly woman struggling near the steps of a small apartment building. She had a stack of grocery bags in her hands and seemed unsure of how to climb the steps safely. Marcus could see the worry in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders, and the effort it took just to hold the bags. Without a second thought, he ran toward her. "Excuse me, ma'am, can I help you with those?" he asked politely. The woman looked up, surprised but relieved. "Oh, thank you, young man. I didn't want to trouble anyone, but these bags are heavier than I expected," she said with a tired smile. Marcus quickly took two of the bags from her hands. "No trouble at all. I can carry these inside for you." The woman's eyes softened, and she nodded. "You're very kind. Thank you." As they carefully made their way up the steps, Marcus noticed that her movements were slow and deliberate. He realized she might have a physical disability or difficulty moving. That thought made him even more determined to help. "I'm Marcus," he said as he balanced the bags. "I'm Mrs. Whitman," she replied warmly. They reached her apartment door, and Marcus gently placed the bags on the floor. Mrs. Whitman gave him a grateful look. "I don't know what I would have done without your help. These steps have always been difficult for me." Marcus shrugged modestly. "It's nothing, really. I'm happy to help." Mrs. Whitman paused for a moment as if trying to remember something. "It's rare to see a young person so willing to help a stranger," she said. "Most people are always in a hurry and they don't stop to notice anyone else." Marcus smiled. "I guess I just believe that if you can help someone, you should. Even small things matter." Mrs. Whitman nodded thoughtfully. "You're right, small things do matter, and sometimes they mean more than you think." Marcus looked around her apartment, noticing that it was cozy but well kept. There were photos of family and friends on the walls, and a few awards displayed on a shelf. He didn't know the significance of those awards at the time, but he felt a sense of calm and warmth in the room. It was the kind of place where kindness and care were clearly valued. "I'll just put these bags in the kitchen for you," Marcus said as he moved toward the counter. "That would be wonderful, thank you," Mrs. Whitman replied. As he unpacked the groceries, Marcus asked her a few polite questions about her day. She spoke gently, explaining that she had been to the market that morning and was trying to prepare lunch before her usual errands. Marcus listened, offering friendly comments and sometimes a joke or two to lighten the mood. The conversation was easy, comfortable, and pleasant. After the groceries were arranged neatly on the counter, Marcus prepared to leave. "I should get going," he said. "It was nice meeting you, Mrs. Whitman." She smiled at him. "Thank you again, Marcus. You've done more than I could have asked for. You remind me that there are still good people in the world." Marcus felt a warm glow inside, the kind of feeling that comes from knowing you've done something meaningful. He waved goodbye and walked down the steps, thinking about how small gestures could leave a big impact on someone's day. As he continued home, Marcus reflected on the encounter. He didn't know it at the time, but this simple act of helping a woman carry her groceries would become a story that others would hear, a story that might inspire more acts of kindness. He thought about his own life, his school, his friends, and how easy it was to get caught up in routine without noticing the people around him. Helping Mrs. Whitman reminded him to slow down, pay attention, and offer help whenever possible. The sun was shining brightly, casting warm rays on the streets and the buildings. Marcus noticed neighbors smiling at one another, children playing with pets, and shopkeepers arranging their displays. Life seemed ordinary, yet he realized that ordinary days could hold extraordinary moments. His heart felt light, happy, and hopeful. When he reached his own building, Marcus took a moment to sit on the front steps. He thought about Mrs. Whitman's smile, her words, and the gratitude in her eyes. It was a feeling that didn't fade quickly. Marcus understood that kindness wasn't about recognition or reward. It was about making a difference, however small, in someone else's life. That afternoon, Marcus continued his usual activities, but with a new perspective. He noticed people struggling with packages, doors held open for others, and friends helping each other with schoolwork. Each act of kindness reminded him of the simple morning when he had helped Mrs. Whitman. It became a part of his thought process, a reminder that his actions mattered. Unbeknownst to Marcus, Mrs. Whitman had noticed not just his help, but the way he conducted himself, respectful, humble, and cheerful. She would later remember this young man for much more than just carrying groceries. His kindness, integrity, and willingness to help a stranger had left a lasting impression, even though Marcus had no idea who he was helping at that moment. For Marcus, the day ended quietly. He completed his homework, ate dinner with his family, and shared a few stories from his walk with his younger brother. Yet, the thought of Mrs. Whitman lingered in his mind. It was a reminder that sometimes the smallest actions could set off a chain of events that one could never predict. And so, a simple Saturday morning, a few grocery bags, and a young teen's willingness to help became the first step in a story of kindness, recognition, and life-changing opportunities. Marcus had no idea that the woman he helped was someone important, someone whose life and influence reached far beyond the walls of her apartment. All he knew was that he had done the right thing, and that alone was enough to make him proud. A few days had passed since Marcus had helped Mrs. Whitman with her groceries. Life for him continued as usual. School was busy, filled with classes, homework, and the usual chatter of friends in the hallways. He often thought about that Saturday morning, but only as a small, pleasant memory. Helping someone had always been part of who he was, and he never expected anything to come of it. Meanwhile, Mrs. Whitman had been thinking about Marcus, too. She was impressed not just by his willingness to help, but by the way he had carried himself, confident, polite, and kind. She had seen many people over the years, some wealthy, some struggling, some generous, and some selfish. Marcus, with his genuine smile and respectful manner, reminded her of something important. Kindness still existed in the world, even in the youngest generation. That afternoon, Marcus walked home from school, passing the same streets he had walked before. The sun shone brightly, and the cool breeze felt refreshing against his skin. He noticed the usual neighbors, the street vendors, and the children playing in the park. Everything seemed familiar and normal. Yet, he didn't know that he was about to encounter something that would change his ordinary life, at least for a little while. As he reached the corner near Mrs. Whitman's building, he noticed a small envelope lying on the sidewalk. Curious, he picked it up. Inside, he found a note neatly written in elegant handwriting. "Marcus, thank you again for your help last weekend. I hope you will allow me to repay your kindness in a small way. Please come to my office this Friday if you are free. Evelyn Whitman." Marcus blinked in surprise. At first, he wondered if it was a prank. He had never expected anyone to remember such a small act. But the tone of the note was warm, sincere, and respectful. He carefully folded the note and put it in his pocket, feeling a mix of curiosity and excitement. The next few days were difficult for Marcus to focus on schoolwork. He kept thinking about Mrs. Whitman. Who was she really? Why had she asked him to come to her office? Was it something serious or just a friendly gesture? His mind was filled with questions, but he also felt a quiet excitement about the possibility of meeting her again. When Friday arrived, Marcus dressed neatly. He wanted to make a good impression, even though he wasn't sure what to expect. He walked to the address she had written, noticing that it was in a quieter part of the city, a building that looked older but well-maintained. Hesitating for a moment at the door, he reminded himself to be polite, respectful, and calm. Inside, the office was warm and welcoming. The walls were lined with bookshelves, photographs, and certificates. There were plants in every corner, giving the room a lively and peaceful atmosphere. Mrs. Whitman greeted him with a smile that was both kind and professional. "Marcus, I'm so glad you could come," she said. "Please have a seat." Marcus nodded politely and sat down, trying to appear confident despite feeling a little nervous. "Thank you for inviting me, Mrs. Whitman," he said. She studied him carefully for a moment. "Marcus, I want you to know that your help that day did not go unnoticed. In fact, it impressed me more than you can imagine." Marcus felt a warm rush of pride but tried to remain humble. "I didn't do anything special. I just helped because I could," he said softly. Mrs. Whitman leaned back in her chair. "That is exactly what makes it special. You didn't expect anything in return. You didn't ask for attention or recognition. That is rare these days. Many people help only when they see a reward. But you, Marcus, helped out of pure kindness." Marcus was quiet for a moment. He had never thought of it that way. Helping someone had always felt like the right thing to do, but he had never considered that it might be something truly remarkable. Mrs. Whitman smiled warmly. "I would like to tell you a little about myself. Most people know me as someone who works in the community, trying to help others. I run a foundation that supports young people, education, and community development. Over the years, I have met thousands of people, but it is rare to see a young person like you who helps others simply because it is the right thing to do." Marcus listened carefully, trying to absorb every word. He had never imagined that he would be sitting in the office of someone so respected and influential. He felt both nervous and inspired. "I believe," Mrs. Whitman continued, "that people like you are the future, people who show compassion, responsibility, and courage. That is why I wanted to meet you personally. I want to encourage you to continue doing what you are doing and to support you in any way I can." Marcus was amazed. I don't know what to say. I've never been recognized like this before." "You don't need to say anything, Marcus," she replied gently. "I just want you to know that your actions matter. Sometimes even the smallest gesture can create a ripple effect. You may not see it now, but you have already made a difference in my life and in the lives of those around me." She stood up and walked toward a cabinet. Marcus watched as she returned with a folder, neatly labeled with his name. Inside this folder, you'll find some information about our foundation, volunteer programs, and a few opportunities for young people to get involved. I want you to consider this as an invitation. There is no obligation, but I hope it will inspire you to continue helping others and learning new things." Marcus accepted the folder, feeling both honored and excited. He flipped through the pages, seeing photos of events, young volunteers, and smiling faces. There were descriptions of programs, scholarships, and mentorship opportunities. It was more than he had ever imagined. Mrs. Whitman noticed the look on his face. "I understand this may feel overwhelming," she said, "but take your time. Think about what interests you, what you enjoy, and how you might use your talents to help others. We believe in nurturing young people, giving them the tools and guidance they need to make a positive impact." Marcus nodded. He felt a strong sense of responsibility. He realized that helping Mrs. Whitman that day was only the beginning. There were so many ways he could make a difference, not just for one person, but for many. He thought about his own friends, his school, and his community. If he could inspire just a few people to be kind, to help others, to act without expecting anything in return, maybe he could create a ripple effect too. For the rest of the afternoon, Marcus and Mrs. Whitman talked about life, school, and dreams. She shared stories of her own experiences, how she had faced challenges, and how helping others had shaped her life. Marcus shared his own ambitions, his love for reading, his interest in community service, and his hope to one day make a meaningful contribution to society. By the time Marcus left her office, the sun was beginning to set. The streets glowed in soft shades of orange and pink, and the air was calm and peaceful. Marcus felt a deep sense of gratitude. He realized that helping Mrs. Whitman had led him to an opportunity he had never expected. What started as a simple act of carrying groceries had turned into an important lesson about life, kindness, and the unexpected ways people's lives can connect. As he walked home, Marcus reflected on everything he had learned. He felt inspired to continue helping others, to be more aware of the needs of people around him, and to always act with kindness and humility. The memory of Mrs. Whitman's smile, her words of encouragement, and her faith in young people stayed with him, filling him with hope and determination. That evening, Marcus shared the experience with his parents and younger brother. They listened with amazement as he described the office, the conversation, and the opportunities presented to him. His family encouraged him to take part in the Foundation's programs, to learn, grow, and continue helping others. Marcus agreed, feeling proud but also motivated to do more. Little did he know, this encounter was only the beginning. Marcus had no idea how far-reaching the impact of his small act of kindness could be. Helping Mrs. Whitman had not only brightened her day, but had also opened doors for him. Doors that would lead to new friendships, experiences, and opportunities he could never have imagined on that ordinary Saturday morning. And so, Marcus walked into the weekend with a new perspective. Life felt bigger, brighter, and full of possibilities. He realized that acts of kindness were never wasted, and that even the simplest gesture could change someone's life. And sometimes, in ways that would eventually change his own. Over the next few weeks, Marcus began participating in the programs at Mrs. Whitman's foundation. He was amazed at how many young people were involved, each one eager to make a difference in their community. There were students helping younger children with reading, organizing small events, and volunteering at local shelters. Marcus quickly realized that his simple act of helping someone carry groceries had opened the door to a world he had never fully imagined. At first, Marcus felt nervous. He was used to helping people one-on-one, like he had done with Mrs. Whitman, but now he was part of a larger group, working together on bigger projects. He was assigned to a community outreach program where the goal was to visit neighborhoods, talk to residents, and see how the foundation could support them. It was exciting but also challenging. Marcus had never led a group before, and sometimes he doubted his abilities. One morning, as Marcus and a few other volunteers walked through a local neighborhood, Mrs. Whitman joined them. She had a calm and encouraging presence, making everyone feel comfortable. She shared stories of the challenges people faced and explained how small gestures could create significant changes. Marcus listened intently, remembering the words she had told him during their first meeting. Sometimes even the smallest act of kindness can start a ripple that spreads far beyond what you see, she had said. That day, Marcus saw firsthand how her words were true. They visited families who were struggling with basic needs, and Marcus offered help wherever he could. He helped carry groceries, fix a broken fence, and even read to children who loved listening to his stories. Each time he helped someone, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He realized that kindness was not just a one-time action. It could be part of a larger mission, something that could impact many lives. As the weeks went on, Marcus began to notice that people in the community were starting to recognize him. They remembered him from previous visits and greeted him warmly. Some children ran to him, excited to see him again, while parents expressed their gratitude for his help. Marcus felt proud but also humble. He had never sought recognition or praise, yet he realized that his actions were inspiring others to do good as well. Mrs. Whitman continued to mentor him, offering guidance on leadership, communication, and problem-solving. She shared her own experiences of challenges she had faced in her life, and how she had overcome them with perseverance and compassion. Marcus learned that helping others was not always easy. It required patience, empathy, and courage. He began to see that his own small act of kindness had grown into something bigger than he had ever imagined. One afternoon, during a meeting at the foundation's office, Mrs. Whitman called Marcus aside. "Marcus," she said, "I want to show you something." She led him to a wall filled with photographs from past events and projects. Marcus looked at the images of children learning, families receiving support, and volunteers working together. Then he noticed a photograph of himself, taken during the first visit he had made to the neighborhood. He looked closer and saw that Mrs. Whitman had written a small note beneath the picture. "Marcus, the young man whose kindness reminded me of why I do what I do." A true example of compassion in action. Marcus felt a mix of surprise and humility. He had never expected to be recognized in such a way. It was one thing to help someone, it was another to have that act remembered and appreciated by someone he admired so much. He realized that his actions, no matter how small they seemed to him, had a lasting impact. As the months passed, Marcus continued to grow within the foundation. He learned how to organize events, communicate effectively with people of all ages, and work as part of a team. He also developed confidence in his abilities, realizing that his voice mattered and that he could influence others in positive ways. Every time he helped someone, he remembered the day he met Mrs. Whitman, the day he had carried her groceries. That simple act had changed the course of his life, opening doors to experiences he had never imagined. One day, Mrs. Whitman invited Marcus to a special event, a community gathering celebrating volunteers and their contributions. Marcus felt nervous as he entered the room, unsure of what to expect. The hall was filled with people from all walks of life, children, parents, teachers, and volunteers. There were decorations, banners, and a sense of excitement in the air. Mrs. Whitman took the stage to speak, and Marcus listened as she shared stories of the people the foundation had helped, emphasizing the importance of kindness and community. Then, she paused, and Marcus felt her gaze on him. "I want to recognize someone very special today," she said. Someone whose small act of kindness reminded me of why we do what we do. Someone who carried groceries for me one Saturday morning, not expecting anything in return. Marcus, would you please come up here? Marcus felt a rush of emotions, surprise, nervousness, and a deep sense of pride. He walked to the stage as the audience applauded. Mrs. Whitman shook his hand warmly and spoke about his actions, highlighting his humility, compassion, and dedication to helping others. For the first time, Marcus realized the full impact of what he had done. What had started as a simple gesture had grown into a story that inspired others. People in the audience were moved by his example, and several young volunteers approached him afterward, eager to learn from him and work alongside him. Mrs. Whitman smiled as she watched Marcus interact with the crowd. "See, Marcus," she said later, "kindness always comes back in ways you cannot predict. Your actions inspired others, and now you are making a difference not just for one person, but for many." Marcus nodded, feeling both proud and humbled. He understood now that helping someone was never just about that moment. Each act of kindness could grow, inspire, and create opportunities for change. He had no idea who Mrs. Whitman really was when he first helped her, yet that one choice had shaped his life in profound ways. After the event, Marcus continued to work with the foundation, taking on more responsibilities and mentoring other young volunteers. He became a symbol of the ripple effect of kindness, showing that even small, selfless actions could lead to life-changing opportunities. People began to recognize him in the community, not just as a helper, but as a leader and role model. Through it all, Marcus remained humble. He never helped people for recognition or reward, but he learned that true kindness often inspires others and leads to unexpected growth. He continued to remember that Saturday morning, the groceries, and the smile of a grateful woman. That memory became a guiding light, reminding him that no act of kindness is ever wasted, and that sometimes the people we help can have an influence far greater than we ever imagined. By the end of the year, Marcus had grown not only as a volunteer, but as a person. He had learned the value of empathy, the power of compassion, and the importance of taking initiative to help others. His confidence had grown, his perspective had broadened, and he had discovered that one small choice could truly change the course of a life, not just his own, but the lives of many around him. And so, Marcus' simple act of helping a disabled woman on a quiet Saturday morning became more than just a memory. It became a story of inspiration, recognition, and transformation. He had no idea at the time who he was approaching, but now he knew that every act of kindness mattered, and that the smallest gestures could open doors, change perspectives, and create ripples that lasted far longer than one could ever imagine. After the community event, Marcus' life began to change in subtle but meaningful ways. The recognition he received that day was not something he had sought, and yet it opened doors he had never imagined. People in the neighborhood began to greet him with smiles and waves, and other young volunteers looked to him as a role model. He felt a new sense of responsibility, not to seek fame or reward, but to continue doing good and inspiring others to do the same. At school, Marcus' friends noticed a difference in him. He was more confident, yet still humble. He shared his experiences at the foundation, encouraging his classmates to join in volunteer work and small acts of kindness. Some students were inspired to help elderly neighbors, assist children with homework, or organize local cleanup projects. Marcus realized that his actions were creating ripples far beyond what he could see. Each person he influenced had the potential to impact someone else, and the effect multiplied like waves across a calm pond. Meanwhile, Mrs. Whitman continued to mentor Marcus, taking a personal interest in his growth. She introduced him to new opportunities, such as leadership workshops, community service projects, and educational programs designed to nurture young talent. Marcus eagerly embraced each opportunity, learning valuable skills in communication, organization, and problem-solving. He also discovered a love for helping people on a larger scale, understanding that kindness could be strategic and effective without losing its genuine heart. One afternoon, Mrs. Whitman invited Marcus to a private meeting. She had a thoughtful look in her eyes as she spoke. "Marcus, I want to offer you something special," she said. "You have shown remarkable character, and I believe you have the potential to achieve great things. I would like to support your education, help you develop your skills, and provide guidance as you pursue your dreams." Marcus was speechless. He had never expected such an offer. "Mrs. Whitman, I don't know what to say," he stammered. "You don't have to say anything, Marcus," she replied warmly. "I just want to give you the tools to succeed. You have already proven that you have the heart. Now I want to help you grow in every way I can." Over the next few months, life took on new dimensions. He received mentorship, scholarship opportunities, and access to programs that helped him explore his interests and talents. He began to dream bigger, setting goals that once seemed impossible. He also continued volunteering at the foundation, leading projects, mentoring younger students, and helping organize community events. Through all of this, he never forgot the moment that started it all, the day he helped Mrs. Whitman with her groceries. One day, Marcus was asked to speak at a citywide youth event. He was nervous at first, but he remembered Mrs. Whitman's words about the ripple effect of kindness. Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the stage and shared his story. He spoke about the importance of helping others without expecting anything in return, about the small choices that can change lives, and about the value of compassion, patience, and humility. The audience listened intently, and when Marcus finished, there was a moment of silence followed by a standing ovation. Many young people approached him afterward, inspired to volunteer and make a difference in their own communities. Marcus realized that his actions were not just helping individuals. They were inspiring a movement of kindness and empathy. As the years went by, Marcus continued to grow, both as a person and as a leader in his community. He pursued higher education with the support of scholarships and mentorship from Mrs. Whitman and her foundation. He also continued volunteering, mentoring, and encouraging others to act with kindness. Each step of his journey reminded him of that quiet Saturday morning, the groceries, and the woman whose gratitude had changed his life. Eventually, Marcus became a recognized figure in his city, known not for fame or wealth, but for his dedication to helping others. He established programs for youth volunteering, created initiatives to support families in need, and continued to mentor young people, just as Mrs. Whitman had mentored him. His influence reached far beyond his neighborhood, touching lives across the city and inspiring countless individuals to act with kindness. Through it all, Marcus never lost his humility. He remembered the lessons he had learned, that small gestures matter, that kindness is powerful, and that helping others can open doors in ways one cannot imagine. He also never forgot the woman he had helped, Mrs. Whitman, who had seen potential in him and nurtured it with patience, guidance, and encouragement. One quiet afternoon, Marcus visited Mrs. Whitman at her home. She was seated in her favorite chair, smiling warmly as he entered. "Marcus, look at how far you've come," she said. "You've inspired so many people, and yet you've remained the same kind, humble person I met that day." Marcus smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I couldn't have done any of this without your guidance. Helping you that day was simple, but it started a journey I never imagined." Mrs. Whitman nodded. "Sometimes the smallest acts lead to the greatest journeys. You showed courage, compassion, and integrity. That is what made all the difference." Marcus realized then that his story was not just about recognition or opportunity. It was about the power of a simple act of kindness, the importance of mentorship, and the incredible ripple effects that follow when people act from the heart. He understood that helping others was never just about the moment. It was about the long-term impact and the lives that could be touched along the way. As Marcus walked home that evening, he reflected on his journey. From the quiet Saturday morning, when he helped a disabled woman with her groceries, to the citywide youth event, the scholarships, and the mentorship opportunities, everything had started with a simple act of kindness. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had made a positive difference in the world and had inspired others to do the same. In the years that followed, Marcus continued to live by the values he had learned: humility, empathy, generosity, and courage. He remained dedicated to helping others, mentoring youth, and creating opportunities for those in need. His story became a testament to the power of small gestures, proving that anyone, regardless of age or background, could make a meaningful impact. Through it all, Marcus never sought fame or reward. He acted from the heart, guided by the belief that kindness is never wasted. And in doing so, he created a life filled with purpose, meaning, and inspiration for others to follow. The story of Marcus and Mrs. Whitman serves as a reminder that every small act of goodness matters. Sometimes, helping someone as simple as carrying groceries can start a journey that changes lives in ways we can never imagine. Marcus' life was forever changed, not because he sought recognition, but because he chose to act with kindness, humility, and compassion. And that is a lesson that will continue to inspire others for generations to come.